Good afternoon, viewers. This is our program, Your Voice, and I am Titilaya Ojomo. The topic for today's program is, how do you train your child not to fall under the influence of negative peer pressure? We have an important personality with us today. He's a pastor, is a motivational speaker, and is the principal transformation strategist of Kunle Your Company. He'll be talking to us on how we can train up our children so that they do not fall under the influence of negative peer pressure. Let's take a short break and we will be right back. Welcome back, viewers. It's still your program, Our Voice. Like I said earlier, we have the principal transformation strategist of Kunle Your Company here with us, and he'll be talking to us on how we can train our children so that they do not fall under the influence of negative peer pressure. Good afternoon, Pastor Kunle.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about yourself?
Well, there's a lot I can say about myself. A lot of it is available online on counsel.com, but people say I do so many things. I consider myself a futurist, a mystic, a thought leader, and so much more. But I'd like to be known as a nation builder. Thank you.
Can you explain what negative peer pressure is?
Well, pressure is defined as something negative because of the outcomes that it has generated in its history as a word. But essentially, pressure is a privilege because you have to be engaged for you to be under pressure. If you compare the impact of pressure on so many people who are not under any kind of pressure at all, then you realize that pressure is a privilege. So negative peer pressure are those kind of pressures that people are not able to internalize properly, define properly, and deploy properly. And it forces them to make mistakes that hurt them and hurt their area of influence.
Okay. So how do you think you can imbibe good values into the life of a child?
Well, a child is a victim essentially because a child cannot audit what the adults of his or her life are pouring into him or her, how much more to resist it. So essentially, the destiny of a child is tied critically to the quality of the adults in the life of the child. When the adults are not wise, the child has a propensity to grow up foolish. When the adults are wise, the child has a propensity to grow up very wise. It's really about influence. Nobody is self-made. We are all products of influences. And when those influences are wrong, the child essentially is endangered.
Pastor Kunle, how do you imbibe good values into the life of a child?
Yeah, I think it's all about parenting. Part of the big idea that parents need to understand is that parenting is not a gift of nature, it's a skill. And no child is self-made. Children are products of influences. So essentially, when the adult behavior around the child is solid and positive, the child has a high propensity to turn out wise and intelligent and clear and strong. When the influences are not solid, the child will follow to the character of that intelligence. So essentially, it comes down to the parents in the life of the child, what they know and how much of it they can install into the child.
What do you feel negative peer pressure is?
Negative peer pressure essentially is about the pressure that is negative. So what that means is that pressure is not negative. Pressure in itself is needed in life as a privilege because you have to be engaged to feel pressure of any kind. Now, when you don't know how to contain your pressure and how to interpret it, internalize it, and deploy it, it will bring out negative reactions from you. So the pressure is never the problem. Okay. It is your solidity in containing the pressure that is the problem. Pressure itself as a concept is a privilege. So when we say negative peer pressure, it is those pressures from around you, around your peers, that you really don't have the emotional intelligence and the mental weaponry to be able to contain, resist, put in perspective, and use to serve your cause and your own interest. Essentially, that's it.
So do you think it's beat a child as a form of punishment if the child misbehaves?
I don't think beating is a necessary tool for governing behavior. Beating brings conditioning, and what it does is that it makes the child automated in his reasoning and conditions the child. A lot of so-called submissive children are not submissive, they are subdued. They have been beaten by the ignorance of their parents who are frustrated with their behavior. And so they see beating the child as a therapy for themselves, not essentially to govern the behavior of the child. So inspiration is what is needed in the house. Then correction is not punishment. Punishment is an embarrassment of nature. Any fool can punish. But correction is a skill. You have to learn something for you to know how to correct. But anybody angry can punish anybody. It's just like anger. You don't need formal training to know how to get angry. You don't need formal training to know how to punish. But you do need training to know how to correct people.
So are you trying to say that parents shouldn't beat their kids at all?
Well, yes, I don't think parents should beat their kids. There are different forms of punishment. Beating is not one of them. And beating a child is extreme because look at the meaning. A child is a child. He's prone to misbehavior. So you should not be shocked that he's misbehaving. You are supposed to anticipate it and prepare for it and know exactly how to handle it. The truth is, a lot of parents don't know any other way of governing the behavior of a child apart from what history has installed into them. They learned how to beat because they were beaten. Do you understand? But if you look at our continent, after over how many years of beating? Over 50 years of beating. We are the world's single largest liability. Definitely this beating has not helped. The environment we criticize, America, United Kingdom, Europe, we say that they don't beat. But they give us everything we use. Our cars, our shoes, our computers. There must be something about this not beating that is allowing the kids to function at that high level of creativity that beats our own out. A child is born with curiosity, naturally. In Africa, you beat it out of the child before he's 6. So these are the challenges. We need to grow up and learn and grow and assess the kind of knowledge that can help us to really find inspiration that govern the behavior of the child and support the child to be able to see and take meaningful decisions.
Wow. So at what age do you think a child can differentiate right from wrong?
By age 6, a child's personality is 80% formed. By age 6, a child's personality is 80% formed. So I think that from the moment a child is born, it's already differentiated between right or wrong. It's just growing in degrees and it's his ability to handle complexities. So there should be no particular age that the child can comprehend right and wrong. With right teaching and right inspiration, the child should be growing in his ability to contain complexity, but he should be learning right and wrong from any age.
Okay. So how would you counsel someone that comes to meet you that is always bullied by his friend? Maybe he's in a caucus of friend and they're always talking down on him. He's always bullied, they talk to him anyhow, they don't respect him. So he wants to be respected and he's really feeling bad, he's always feeling bad. So in that kind of situation, how would you counsel that kind of person?
The first thing is to let him know about his own strength, his ability to choose friends wisely and avoid people that are not secure in themselves, who use bullying to define their own meaning. However, you cannot always run from nuisance. Nuisance as a way of finding you. So I will also tell him to be strong and to be willing to push if you are pushed. There's a place for that, right? So if you don't let children know that you can pull your weight, they will continue to use you as their weight. So there's a place for that. So I will get the child to be conscious of his own esteem. I will get him to be conscious of his own ability to select between wisdom and foolishness in choosing his friends. But in addition to that, I will also talk to him seriously about how he can be strong and to defend himself in any circumstance. Then most importantly, you need to learn to report and bring matters to his parents and to teachers very quickly. At the speed of arrival, you should learn to report. But you cannot train a child to resist bullying if a part of him is not clear that he need to take his ground and put his feet on the ground at some point.
Okay. Do you think it helps a child, like in a situation where a female child goes to an only girls' school and the male child goes to an only boys' school? Do you think it can make the child more decent?
No. The inputs that make a child to think right and to act right is not gender sensitive. So foolishness exists on both sides. There are behaviors that make a girl silly, there are behaviors that make a boy silly, and there are behaviors that make human beings silly. All of these are variables. So I don't think going to a female school can help a child to be a better human being, or going to a female school can make a child a better human being.
What are those behaviors that make a girl silly, or those behaviors that make a guy silly?
Well, when a child can no longer, or for whatever reason, is incapable of identifying the best actions per time. For example, in choosing friends, in responding to the pressure of looking good, in responding to the pressure of point proving. How do you handle you not having the things your friends have, and the pressure to have them, going out, dealing with boys, parties, being famous, getting attention, all of those things. Once you cannot, I don't believe that a stubborn child exists. I think there's no such thing as a stubborn child. You only have ignorant parents. I think ignorant parents are the ones that create the kind of behavior that we see in children. Children are victims, and they will always be victims as long as the parents in their life are not strong enough to offer them proper direction. So kids crack in the face of pressure. They don't want to crack. They make promises to themselves. They break as many as they make. They do wrong things. They don't want to do it, but they do it because they thought they could work against it, but they couldn't, because what it takes to say no at that point is missing. I tell parents every time, the most powerful word in the life of a child is no. Yes is something nobody needs to be trained to say, but if all you know how to say in your life is yes, you'll be used, dumped, taken for granted, and cheated all your life. You need the character to say no, and that has to be taught. That's not what you learn naturally.
Okay. Teenagers have this feeling, they have this mentality that they are adults when they get to like age 13 to 19. So in a situation where a teenager misbehaves, what do you think is the best form of punishment?
Conversation. There's nothing called punishment. If you punish a teenager, your punishment is interpreted as persecution. And persecution grows resolve. It doesn't heal anything. It just grows and strengthens resolve. So if you persecute a teenager, you are going to grow the nuisance value of that child. What is nuisance value? The value of an entity's contribution to the disorderliness, underdevelopment, and irritation of society. And when you put unnecessary pressure without proper conversation, direction, and inspiration to a teenager, it's going to show you that it's a teenager by responding with his strength. And the critical component in the life of a teenager is that there are options. There are too many options in the life of a teenager. Once a parent does not understand that and you are arrogantly harassing the boy, he will take one of the options. And most of those options are not known in the house. So that's the beginning of his own nuisance right there. Teenagers hurt themselves with pride, with the assumption that they are hurting their parents, though they are hurting themselves. It's so sad, But personally, I never blame a child for how he has turned out. When you see somebody in jail, he's the final representative of so many people who should also be in jail. But he's going to go into jail alone. But so many adults misbehaved that got him into that jail. And those people are going to walk free. And they're going to even come back to point fingers at that child and blame him for his own errors, or blame her for her own errors. Meanwhile, this is the responsibility of so many people. It's such a sad equation.
So now, can you just give a brief summary of how you think you can train a child not to fall under the influence of negative peer pressure?
Yes, I can give some tips right away. First of all, parents out there should learn that a child is born with three qualities, three very powerful qualities, natural qualities. Fearlessness, number one. Curiosity and spontaneity, number two. Ignorance, number three. Fearlessness, because a child has no experience of fear to make him fearful. As a power parent, never forget, your job is to preserve that fearlessness in that child till the child is age 6 at least. If you can keep a child fearless till age 6, you have created an amazing, strong machine for the future. It's something we should focus on. And you also need to preserve a child's curiosity, that part of the child that asks why. You know, that is the key to our inventions in Africa. That is the key to our development, our civilization, and all that we need to experience. We have to preserve those in the child as well till the child is 6. Then ignorance is not an embarrassment. Ignorance is a gift. It means there is a part of you that will always be incapable of interpreting all of your realities, such that you need to depend on other people. Now, the ignorance that has been impacted by training and remains ignorant, that's a vice. But ignorance that has not been impacted by training is a necessity. For example, I've not been trained to shoot a gun, so it's a necessity. I should depend on security personnel to shoot the gun. If they cannot shoot the gun after they have been trained, then they have a problem. So the idea is a parent should go out of his way. Parents should go out of their way to learn, how do I then do that? How do I maintain fearlessness in the child, maintain curiosity in the child, and how do I feed the ignorance of my child with a lot of knowledge? That's the key thing.
Thank you very much, Pastor Kunle, for talking to us today on how to train our child so that they do not fall under the influence of negative peer pressure. It was really nice talking to you. And I'm sure you've all learned a lot today, and you would use it in training your kids today. Thank you very much. And that comes to the end of today's program. Have a beautiful day ahead. I remain Titilayo Ojomo.